Hey YouTube, it's Dave here, and what I want to talk about today is the importance of physical health uh, and spiritual development and spiritual growth. And I think uh, a lot of people that get into spirituality or New Age movement or um, anything like that often forget about taking care of their body properly, and I think this can hinder a person's overall level of spiritual development. So I just want to talk about this a little bit, and so why is this important? Every single one of your bodies is connected. Your emotional body is connected to your physical body. Your physical body is connected to your emotional body, your mental body, your spiritual body, and your energetic body. So all of those combined bodies form who you are, and there's an interplay of communication between all of them. And the body has its own consciousness. It is a very base level consciousness, but it does have its own consciousness. So it's not the same as having mental consciousness or emotional consciousness. This is your body's sort of just root programs that it has, that it comes into this life with, that don't require any conscious thought from you. An example of this would be like a reflex action. If when a doctor hits your knee and your knee kicks out, that's a total reflex action. It doesn't actually even go to the brain. Just travels up to the spinal cord and back to the muscle. And so these types of reflex responses, there's no thought or consideration taken into them whatsoever. They're just pure reaction stimulus. And so that reactive stimulus, or that reaction level of consciousness, which is very base, starts to take over as the body becomes more and more unhealthy. And so this can be acutely during a cold, or having a flu or something like this, or this can be over a long period of time, which is, I think, what a lot more people have today, is just a lot of chronic fatigue and a lot of low energy, just from total, just a buildup of high stress levels over a long period of time, with poor diet and lack of sleep and just general overload. So when you get into that mode, your reactions start becoming a lot more automatic and a lot more unconscious, and your body consciousness starts to take over your mental consciousness and your emotional consciousness as well. And so you start relying a lot on root survival programs that come from the base of the brain. And so your brain stem, which is just your animal brain. And this is the part of the brain and the mind that the body connects to your conscious mind through. And so you start operating a lot from this level. And when you're operating from a level of fight or flight or just survival, and this is just body survival, you may have a lot of money, a lot of social connections, that kind of survival, those type of survival needs may be satisfied. But I'm just talking about just health alone here. If your body is not healthy, you really start to go into this body consciousness that takes over as a basic survival response. And from this basic survival response, it cuts off your empathy, it cuts off your compassion, it cuts off your intuition or your higher guidance. The level of fear in your body increases, and sometimes it can be very hard to connect, even just with your own heart or with your own joy. And so without any higher guidance, with your intuition cut off and with your empathy cut off, you are left with making decisions primarily based on what is good for you at the expense of other people or the environment around you. So when your body is depleted of energy, it's most of the decisions that are going to take over your decision-making process are going to come from a place of trying to replenish energy in the body somehow. And so at this level of consciousness, you don't really think about other people's needs, about other people's wants. You really only think about what is best for you getting energy. And so this takes over, and it can make you do a lot of things. It can make you, eat real horrible, just grabbing whatever foods. It can make you an energy vampire where you just start to suck the living life force out of other people around you and everywhere you go. It's not a good place to be. It's just a very reflexive place to be, and it really, really stunts your ability to grow and expand your heart and your awareness and your consciousness to other levels. And so the things I'm talking about here that are needed just to take care of the body, just, general healthy diet, hydration, moving the body appropriately, having really good posture is very, very important for the flow of the energy channels in the body, good flexibility, and of course detoxification. So these are all the sort of the physical things needed to take care of the body as a regular practice that can then help move a person out of this sort of animal consciousness, which is based on soul survival at the expense of other people and the environment around you. So that's the first reason. So the first reason, you just go into this animal consciousness, which cuts off your higher guidance. The second reason why taking care of your body and keeping your vitality at a higher level is important for spiritual growth and development is a lot of a person's spiritual growth comes from, or can change the identity of a person psychologically. We're, ideally, hopefully not the exact same person we were 10, 20, or 15 years ago, because it means we would not have grown that much. But sort of on an esoteric level, if your soul decides to change the theme of experiences that it needs and moves in another direction, and has to assume a new identity to experience certain lessons that it wouldn't otherwise, lessons or experiences or growth changes that it wouldn't otherwise be able to if you stood in the same identity in the same shoes that you do now. That is a lot of what is behind spiritual growth, aside from just connecting, to divinity and source. So when you expand your awareness, a lot of the times that changes your identity and who you are. And this can take a lot of energy, unbelievable amounts of energy, just in the same way that physical growth, as like a child is growing, when they go through a growth spurt, they have to store and build up a whole bunch of reserves of energy in the body that the body then can use when it has enough energy for the growth process that is about to happen. And that happens on a physical level, but that happens also on a mental, emotional, and spiritual level. So when you're changing who you are as a person, and your perception and your outlook in life, and your fundamental beliefs change, this takes a lot of energy from you, and that energy comes from you directly. It comes from your physical vitality. And so if you have a very high vitality, like 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, and you're very energetic in the absence of taking any sort of stimulants like coffee, and you're very vibrant in your energy, when the spiritual growth hits you and the identity changes start coming from really, really deep within at the root chakra primarily, because that's a lot of where your identity is stored. If you have a high level of vitality, it's going to knock you down from a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. It may take you down to like a 4 or 5 out of 10. And so your energy levels are really, really going to drop significantly. But if you take care of your physical body, you're able to weather that storm a little bit more. You still may be tired, but you're not going to be totally exhausted. And so if your physical vitality is only maybe a 5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10, or you're just running on empty fumes most of the time, as soon as the spiritual changes start to happen, or the mental emotional changes start to happen and filter down through within you, it takes a lot of energy to process those emotions and those beliefs. So if your vitality is only at a 5 or 6 out of 10, and that change knocks you down 5 or 6 points, it's going to bring you down to a level of vitality that's only a 1 or 2 out of 10, which, you know, is a really tough place to be, because you're going to be depressed, you're going to be exhausted, you may not be able to get out of bed too easily in the morning, and just you're at the level where just getting by on a day-to-day basis can be really, really difficult. Even just making meals and doing things that a normal, you know, healthy, vital person would take for granted as easy, when you're going through this spiritual transformation, these easy things can become really, really difficult if you haven't taken care of your physical body. So that's number 2. Just the changes in identity and who you are just take so much out of you physically and energetically that it really helps to keep your vitality levels up, you know, to weather those changes and keep yourself functioning on a day-to-day basis. Okay, next is sort of tied into the first one, but it's when you're tired and you have physical fatigue, that affects your emotional body and your mental body, and most importantly, it affects your willpower. Your willpower is directly tied to your physical vitality. So a person with a high vitality and a lot of energy will have also a lot of willpower and will be able to resist or transform negative emotions in a healthier way than a person that is really, really tired. And so the mental, emotional processing component of this, you need to have your willpower up. And to have your willpower up, you have to have your physical vitality up. And so if you're just chronically tired all the time, or suffering from general ill health physically, it's going to manifest in a lot of negative emotions, more coming to the surface than you would be able to manage or process or filter just on your own on a day-to-day basis. It's really, really tough to get out of a negative mindset when you're very, very tired. And, you know, just the example of this is just, if you've ever seen a young child when they're tired and it's time to go to bed, but they get very, very cranky, that pattern still generally continues as an adult. And when adults get very, very cranky and cranky, that can be a sign that their physical fatigue is dropping below a certain level. So keeping the physical vitality up really helps with the mental and emotional component of this as well. And the last thing is just the energetic component. And so a lot of this goes back to structural alignment in your body and posture. And so you have energy channels that go up and down your body, up and down your spine, to the right and the left of the spine, in the front of the body. So you have your Kundalini channels, you have your meridians from the Chinese medicine acupuncture system. And so with meditations, certain type of energy meditations, you can get in touch with the sensation and the feeling, the flow of these energies. And I've definitely experienced this a number of times. When your posture is off or a muscle is tight, there's sort of an ideal anatomical neutral, in which these energy channels have the most ideal flow. And when you're off, and you're sitting in a chair all day and your shoulders around it and your posture is down or your head's tilted to the side, or whatever the posture is, that really does affect the energetic flow of the energy up and down these channels. And so that energetic flow is for a few things. One of them is to help sustain your vitality and your organ health and your overall health. But those energies that flow up and down, especially your central column, up and down your spine, when the energy flows up and down that channel, it really, really helps accelerate your spiritual growth and development a lot. And I'm not going to go too much into the mechanism here, that's for another video, but Suffice it to say, when your body alignment is off, then the energetic channels cannot flow. And that also then reduces your ability to grow and expand your consciousness and just be a better person in general. So I think, oh no, there's one more thing. So going just back to the idea of body consciousness, the body has its own consciousness, and it communicates through the animal mind, the animal brain. So when your body is trying to talk to you, it can do so in a number of ways. It can manifest in physical symptoms like skin rashes or tightness or pain, but on a mental, emotional level, it's going to manifest as a lot of dark thoughts, a lot of fearful thoughts. And there can be fearful thoughts that are caused just because you've had prior experiences and you think they may happen again. But there can also be fearful thoughts and really dark, violent thoughts that come from your body consciousness and your animal brain projecting into your conscious mind as a way for your body to tell your mind that your body is not healthy and, you know, needs some help. And so it's really, really important to pay attention to these kind of thoughts and not misinterpret them. And they create, these dark thoughts create a fight or flight sort of scenario that can create a lot of body anxiety. And so, you know, anxiety can have a mental component, an emotional component. It also has a physical component. And the physical component is your body is trying to get you to do the things that you need to do to take care of yourself, because there's a deficiency in energy in the body somewhere, and it's trying to get you into a hyped up or wound up state to take the actions necessary to take care of the body in a proper way to make up for that energy deficit that the body is experiencing. Hopefully that was a good explanation, or hopefully that made sense. And so it's definitely one way that can aggravate, and did in my case, for sure, that helped aggravate a lot of my worries and anxieties. And they were, you know, at times overpowering, but on hindsight, I can see a lot of that now was coming from my body consciousness trying to get me to filter out those thoughts and bring them to the surface because they were sending me a message. And at the time, I did not interpret them properly. You know, it's just really dark thoughts. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but that is one way that your body can communicate with you. And when you have those types of repetitive thoughts, it's really, really hard to get out of them and grow in a spiritual way. So there you go. There's a few reasons why very important to take care of your physical health when you're on a spiritual path. Can really, really move your progress forward and help your overall growth and development. So thank you for watching this video.